What is up, guys? Winter Kills here. Welcome to a brand new featured archetype. I know we've been doing more of these recently, and I'm still on the dual video hiatus because I just can't get the stuff recorded. Just setting it up is tough, and in the process of trying to get new decks, that's what I've been doing on stream, is searching for new decks that I can pick up IRL to sort of spice up the lineup of decks that you guys have been seeing lately. But without further ado, I don't think you guys are going to mind this video because this archetype is called Orphegel, or it is called that right now. I don't know what it's going to be called when it becomes TCG legal, but this, I was told, was promising. I haven't read any of the effects yet. I wanted to save my initial reactions and thoughts on the cards for the first time that I see them. I see the artwork of some of these spell cards. They look pretty cool. So usually when they look cool, they're either really, really bad or really, really good. I don't know. It depends what your definition of really cool artwork is. I suppose the more realistic they look, the cooler it is, I guess. I don't know what your definition of realistic is, but I don't know. These look cool to me. So let's go ahead and take a look at the monster spells, the traps. This is a trap. The image is just not loading. And then we have a couple link monsters, so we'll go ahead and check these out. So this one is actually not a Orphegel in itself, but when I typed in Orphegel in the search bar up there in the top right, this guy came up simply because it's got it in the effect here. It's World Legacy, World Scepter. This normal summoned set card cannot be destroyed by battle with monster that was special summoned from the extra deck. You can only use each of the following effects of World Legacy, World Scepter once per turn. So let's see what this card does. If this card is sent if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one World Legacy monster from your hand. Okay, that's not too bad. If it's just sent to the graveyard, period, you get to do that. So if it's discarded, it is a level 8. So if you were to say trade in this card, draw 2 cards, you'd be able to special summon one World Legacy monster from your hand. You could even summon another copy of itself, I guess, because it doesn't say that you can't. And then it says, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished Orphegel monsters. Special summon it. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except dark monsters. Okay, interesting. It seems okay. I like the first effect the most. I don't really know how it's gonna interact with the rest of the Orphegel stuff. They all look dark monsters. They all look like dark monsters. They all are, yeah, all the links, all the regular monsters, they are all dark monsters, so it looks like that other effect won't really hinder it too much. But the first effect is unique. You foolish it, you trade it in, you do whatever. Not a lure, but coming out in Soul Fusion, I guess. But it seems pretty good. Just the fact you can just summon any World Legacy monster from your hand just when it hits the grave is pretty good in my opinion. It doesn't have to be like from deck to grave, from field to grave, from hand to grave. It's just hit the grave, period, which is nice. And then we have Orphegel Driver. Looks like some sort of statue or some sort of gargoyle or something. Level 4, dark, 1700 attack, 1400 defense. Some pretty decent stats in this guy. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one Orphegel monster from your deck, except himself. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for this turn, except dark monsters. Okay, so it looks like this is starting to become a recurring theme with this deck. The thing that, they'll be able to summon dark monsters. Luckily, they have their own links, because otherwise, I don't know what extra deck access they would be having. This is a level 4. I don't think we'll be seeing too many Xyzs with this deck based on what I see here. And so far, what I know, there's no other tuners from what we've seen, so no synchros. So that's really not too big of a problem. Of course, there are some generic Xyz monsters and synchro monsters that they could probably just use if they wanted to, if given the opportunity. But it says you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon an Orphegel monster from your deck except himself. So basically, banish from grave to summon is what this guy does in a nutshell. Too long didn't read. Banish from grave, summon another Orphegel monster from your deck. That actually seems pretty good. It's just gonna come down to what the spell cards do, perhaps what the other cards do. How quickly you get this guy into your graveyard. It just says you can banish this card from your graveyard, and then special summon another Orphegel monster except himself. You can only use this effect Orphegel Diver, not Driver. Did I say Driver? Orphegel Diver once per turn. So There's a couple things to note with that. You can do that the same turn sent. It's not like a breakthrough skill or something. You have to wait a turn to, you can't banish breakthrough the same turn that's sent. You have to wait a turn, right? That's what it says. This, I'm not seeing it unless there's some hidden text. That seems pretty good. Fortunately, you can only use one a turn. I mean, I guess that's a good thing, right? Yeah, don't want this deck to run rampant with not once per turn effects, as we've seen where that's gone in the past. And then we have Orphegel Share Zone. Interesting looking robot skeleton drum thing. And those look like symbols. I have no idea. So we have some sort of ornate statue, what looks to be in like a church setting, or a cathedral based on the architecture behind it with those nice stained glass windows. And then we have this thing, which also seems to be in sort of that same setting. The same stained glass windows in the background. That's kind of important. I like to look at the artwork sometimes in a lot of these new archetypes to see if you can sort of connect the lines together, see if there's some sort of hidden thing going on, because sometimes we've seen that. Especially with like the BA stuff, you see some of like similar artworks, you see like some of the trap cards. It all kind of builds a nice picture, I guess, in my opinion anyway. So we got Orphegel Share Zone, level 3, 1200 attack, 1500 defense, dark, of course, machine. This one is also a machine. Okay, so they're all machines, it would look like. That one is too. You can manage this card from your graveyard, then target one Orphegel monster in your graveyard except himself, special summon it. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except dark monsters. You can only use the effect of Orphegel Share Zone once per turn. So, again, the same sort of mechanic here as the last one. If it's in the grave, you banish it, target an Orphegel monster in your graveyard except himself. Go ahead and summon that out. Now, this one says summon one Orphegel monster deck except Orphegel Diver. So, okay, so they are protected in that clause. You can't summon out another copy of itself with its own effect. That's nice. Hard once per turn. I like that as well. It's a level 3. It's a dark. I could see some synergy with BA, but Dante is a light monster, so perhaps not. I'm still kind of interested to see how this will be splashed into something. It seems like the deck can float a lot, though. You're doing a lot of banishing to summon. You hits the grave, you're just going to banish the one that hit the graveyard. And next turn anyways, summon out another one, and then you kind of got sort of a continuous amount of resources to work with. And I think that Pot of Avidity would work wonders in this deck, or just Burial from a different dimension, let alone would just be fantastic. And even though that card's at 2 right now, that would be insane for this deck. And then we have Orphegel Cannon, which I don't know if that's the little thing down here. Perhaps not. Maybe my imagination's just running wild. But Orphegel Cannon, some sort of another musical looking type thing here inside of a cathedral setting with the stained glass windows. This thing looks like a sort of an instrumental as well. It looks like 2 harps together. Interesting artwork. I like it. I like it. Then we have Orphegel Cannon, level 1, Dark Machine Tuner. Okay, we have a tuner, ladies and gentlemen. We have a tuner. All right. Right now in Link format, it's kind of like any deck, it's just not trying to exceed, because you got to Link before you want to exceed in most decks. But if this deck becomes a synchro heavy deck in Link format, maybe just really easy to get out your one Link and then you kind of go off with some cool synchros, that would be cool. Just to kind of break away from this whole like stigma where you need Links, then you do other things, right? Instead of just being like, I don't really play Links in my deck, but I play an Xyz monster. But you can't really do anything with just one Xyz monster nowadays, because it's taking up your one extra monster zone. Of course, you'll need the help of Link monsters to sort of advance those extra deck plays now, but perhaps this deck will be able to work around that a little bit. So let's see what its effect. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon Orphegel monster from your hand, except Orphegel Cannon. Also, you cannot special summon monsters turn except for dark monsters. So, dark synchros, unfortunately, I don't have a list of dark synchros kept in my head. But I think that Archfiend Dragon level 8 guy is a dark synchro. But let's look at the numbers here. We have a level 3, a 1, a 4. Right there's 8 total if you use these 3 guys. But the thing I like about this thing is so this one summons from deck when banished from grave. This one summons from grave when banished from grave. This one summons from hand when banished from grave. So it's pretty much like, what do you need to do the summon? You can banish this guy, summon this from deck, banish this guy, summon this from grave if you have another copy in there, and then you can make a level 5 synchro, a dark level 5 synchro. I don't know what one that might be. I can't think of any. I don't think Allied Justice Catastor is. I think that's a light monster, and Armades I think is a fire monster. So maybe this deck will get synchro monsters in the future, which I really hope they do, because that'd be cool. Orphegel Prime. So, and another thing I noticed is that these effects could be splashed into anything. You might play 3 Share Zone and one of these guys, or 2 of these guys, and if you find a way to easily foolish them to the graveyard, perhaps like in a Burning Abyss deck, I don't know. That's just my guess. You just have access to summon free tuners from your deck, so that is cool. But again, there's that stipulation they have where you can only summon monsters except for dart monsters. So I still can't quite figure out what deck that might really hinder, or one deck I should say rather that might be able to abuse that. That's not Orphegels himself, and I'm thinking Shadal's currently, because we don't have Construct, and Wind is not half bad, and maybe there's some sort of way you can make that work. I don't know. You know, just using Shadal Fusion to send like a Share Zone or a Diver from deck, and then a Squamata or a Beast. You get a draw, you have this engraved, banish that, summon that out, and then you can go from there, etc., etc. So we have Orphegel Prime, our first normal spell card. Send 1 Orphegel or World Legacy monster from your hand, or face up field, or face up from your hand, or face up field to the graveyard. Draw 2 cards. You can only activate 1 Orphegel Prime per turn. So they actually have their own built-in trade-in. As I mentioned that earlier with the level 8 guy, I was like, you know, trade-in would work really well with this, but looks like they've got their own built-in trade-in. I like the artwork. Looks pretty mysterious if I don't say so myself. But yeah, so send 1 Orphegel or World Legacy monster from your hand or face-up field to the grave. So that does a little bit more than trade-in does, because you have the option to send from field, and it also doesn't classify what the level the monster has to be. So you could use any of these, get those in the grave, get some draws. So that in itself seems really, really good. I'm liking it so far. And then we have Orphegel Einsatz. Einsatz. Very weird name, but I love that artwork, that glowing pillar of whatever the hell that is. I don't know. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster, except during the damage step, you can take 1 Orphegel monster, and this is continuous, keep that in mind. You can take 1 Orphegel or World Legacy monster from your hand or deck and either send it to the graveyard or banish it. You can only use this effect of Orphegel Einsatz once per turn. Sounds kind of German. So, anytime your opponent normal or special summons a monster, it is a hard once per turn. So, literally, if they do anything, if they don't have any back room, if they summon anything, they have to go into Nightmare Phoenix. Like, they're going to have to do some sort of summoning if they want to clear this card, if they don't have a card like Twin Twister, MST, you know, Dust Tornado, you know, the Twister, some of the best, you know, removal cards, you know what I'm saying? But this card is really interesting. I don't know if we have ever seen a card, or at least in my recent memory, that is sort of reactive off your opponent's summoning, like, oh, if you summon, I get to do this, right? That seems kind of new, kind of fresh. I like it. Take an Orphegel or World Legacy monster from your deck to hand, either send it to the graveyard, and or banish it. So yeah, so 1 World Legacy monster from your hand or deck. So you basically foolish 1 from deck or ditch 1 from hand. I do like that. Very useful for what the deck is trying to do. Everything sort of plays into that theme. Get things to the graveyard so you can use their effects. Everything's sort of on the same page. Nothing sort of stands out, which I really like, because sometimes they do that. So we have a field spell. It's Orphegel Babel. Probably, you know, done after the Tower of Babel. Link monsters you control and monsters in your graveyard whose original names include Orphegel cannot activate their effects during either player's turn. Link monsters you control and monsters in your graveyard whose original names include Orphegel can activate... Oh, never mind, I said can't. Can activate their effects during either player's turn during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard. You can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. Add this card from your graveyard to your hand. So you're telling me I'm gonna have the ability, if I have this up and this up, they summon, I can send this to the grave, and then during their turn I can banish it to summon out something else to maybe float, block damage. But right now, huh? This, yeah. So here's a basic example. Again, this is all we have at the moment. I don't know what anything else does. So it allows pretty much any Orphegel monster in your graveyard whose original name has Orphegel in it. So you couldn't use this because this is a World Legacy monster. Because I was gonna say you could because these only special summon one Orphegel monster from your deck. So this guy's kind of out of the picture. So that seems really good, but it's just these guys, they don't really have much to offer than just banishing to float. Kind of get what I'm saying? I don't know. It seems really good. They're just waiting on that one monster that when it hits the field, you pop something or you banish something, right? They're just waiting on that. I don't know what these things do. Let's see what this is. Orphegel attack. When any player's monster declares an attack, tribute one Orphegel or World Legacy monster, then target one monster your opponent controls, banish it. Okay. I was kind of hoping for non-targeting banish because that right now is like one of the only things that completely outs any U-Link of nightmare monsters. Like I was saying, what outs it? Can't be targeted. They can't be destroyed. They can't be destroyed by battle. Spellbook of Fate came to my head. It's a non-targeting banish. It's a good removal. It's probably the most powerful form of removal in the game is banishing that does not target. So I was kind of hoping I'd see that, but it does target. So fortunately, we won't be getting around that. Better hope you have your Nightmare Goblin on board when this thing goes off, or otherwise you might be losing that U-Link. Anyways, we have a trap continuous. Again, this is just a normal trap. Keep that in mind. This is a continuous trap. I don't know where the artwork is. I can exit it and come back. It's not loading. Okay, whatever. Okay, so Orphegel. Orphegel Core is what it's called. Once per turn, you can banish one monster from your field or graveyard. Then target one Orphegel or World Legacy card you control, except Orphegel Core. Neither player can target that. Target it with card effects this turn. If another Orphegel and a World Legacy card you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send this card to the graveyard instead. So, once per turn, this card is going to basically allow you to banish a monster, or banish one monster from your field or graveyard, and then target or field or World Legacy monster you control, except itself, and then neither player can target that card with card effects this turn. So it doesn't have to be, can't target itself, but you can target any monster, face-up spell, the field spell, the continuous, perhaps any one of these monsters, and get a plus off that. It's saying a lot of banishing, right? But these things, they don't get the effects when banished, period. They just get them when you use the effect, which happens just so banish them. So I'm still kind of confused a little bit. Maybe the Link monsters will reveal something. Yeah, that seems very good. The ability to protect some of your stuff, especially the field spell and the Tower of Babel card. Like, that's huge right now with all the hand traps that we have. I think that's a good thing that they have built in. So we have Orphegel Orchestrion. Again, playing a part of that same cathedral-esque looking type deal. Big bell in the center and some... I forget what that big sort of keyboard thing is called. So it is a Link 4 with one in the bottom left, one down, one up, one top right. That's weird. I don't think I've ever seen that configuration before. 2+ effect monsters, including at least one Orphegel monster. This linked card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Okay, great. You can target 3 of your banished machine monsters, shuffle them into the deck, and if you do, if your opponent controls any face-up link monsters, change their attack defense to 0, also negate their effects. You can only use this effect of Orphegel Orchestrion once per turn. So I think that might be a typo because link monsters obviously don't have attacks. Any face-up linked monsters. Okay, so it doesn't matter. I thought it said link monsters, but it doesn't say linked. So it could be a monster pointing to a link monster. It would count as linked because co-linked and linked are two different things. So that seems very good. This linked card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. I'm sure it'd probably be very easy to get this thing to be linked because if you summon this thing, everything you use for it sends to the graveyard, at least one Orphegel, and you send this guy, right, or this guy, you banish it, summon another Orphegel into a zone that it points to, and there it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So it is a Phoenix and a Cerberus built into one, but it's got 3,000 attack, ladies and gentlemen. So that is a good card right there. We have Orphegel Longiris, and this is a Link 3, 2 effect monsters, including at least one Orphegel monster. This linked card cannot be destroyed by card effects. Okay, so It can be destroyed by battle, but not card effects, but it does have 2,500 attack, which is enough to rival that of Firewall Dragon, so that is sort of relevant. It's a nice attack point. Poor little Megalo can't beat over it, and neither can Winda. I guess I'm naming these random cards, and I guess Mechaba has to crash. I'm just naming random cards. I don't know why. Just to list off attack points. But basically, you can target 2 of your banished machine monsters, shuffle them into the deck. Then you can send 1 linked monster your opponent controls to the graveyard. This card cannot attack the turn this effect is activated. So another thing I guess is like you could use the top arrows to point to your opponent's monsters, and then it would be linked that way. Same thing applies here. It has 2 arrows to the top and just 1 down. So again, that's nice because again, more arrows to the top sort of indicates you're gonna want to put it in your top zone, your left zone, I would think. So you have that down arrow pointing to the middle of your zone, and then 2 pointing up to theirs. And then if they put anything there, it gets the effect that is linked, can't be destroyed by card effects. And then you can target 2 of your banished machine monsters, shuffle them into the deck. Recycle, like the recycling is just insane with these linked monsters. So I was kind of waiting for that. Bearer from Third Dimension might not even be needed at 2. I have no idea. You probably still play it though at 2 maybe. And then you can send 1 linked monster your opponent controls to the graveyard. So wait a second. Target 2 banished machine monsters, shuffle them into, and it's just 2 any machine monsters. So it doesn't have to be an Orphegel, just any machine. So shuffle them in the deck, and then you can send 1 linked monster your opponent controls to the graveyard. So that doesn't target, and it just sends. So that breaks the U-lock extremely easy. That is awesome. That is insane. This is a hard once per turn, but that is just nuts. Then we have Orphegel Galatea. And this is 2 effect monsters, including at least one Orphegel. It is a link 2. This linked card cannot be destroyed by battle. So these 2 sort of combine to form this, if you guys get what I mean. This one can't be destroyed by card effects. This one can't be destroyed by battle. This one can't be destroyed by battle and card effects. So I like that. This one's got the diagonal split going on with the arrows here. Again, I don't think I've ever seen that. Including at least one Orphegel monster. This link card cannot be destroyed by battle. You can target 1 of your banished machine monsters, shuffle into the deck. Then you can set 1 Orphegel spell trap card directly from your deck. You can only use this effect Orphegel Galatea once per turn. So that is just awesome. I don't even need to explain that. So like, I love how they're all like in ascending order, right? This one shuffles 1. This one shuffles 2. This one shuffles 3. 1,800 attack, 2,500, 300, or 3,000. Link 2, Link 3, Link 4. I love that it steps up like that. So this archetype seems absolutely fantastic. I'm not letting this video go on any longer. This is probably one of the longer feature archetypes we did, but this archetype looks incredible. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think, what this archetype will be able to do when it is released here in the TCG. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Winterkill signing out. We'll definitely see you guys in the next one.